Hi all. I know I haven't been on here probably like a couple of weeks. Just been really busy. If you've read or seen any of my videos, not read, but seen any of my videos, you will know that I've been fighting DCF. I've been advocating for families against DCF for 30 years. But I've been fighting to adopt my grandchildren since 2016. I found out in 2024 that one of them, the eldest of my grandchildren, was given back to DCF after he was adopted by a non-relative. Um, so I am just going to kind of update a little bit. If you've watched my videos, you'll see that I put in earlier this year. I put in a private adoption, which is Section 63 adoption in Florida versus a dependency adoption of children that are under dependency with DCF. And it was illegally, my private adoption was illegally merged into the dependency case. It is illegal to do that. It's against judge-made law in that state. All right, so I am just gonna because that was done, as I have said in my videos, I was never given the order that the case was merged. But I appealed it anyways. I was told verbally by a clerk and that the order was mailed to me, but it wasn't mailed to me. I still to this day haven't gotten it. And I also, because I appealed it, I received the index to the case, and because it was merged into the dependency case, I got the index of all of those court entries. It was docketed. So I'm going to kind of go over a little bit of a timeline to sort of refresh, just so people, if they haven't seen any of my other videos, will not be completely lost. But these are very important. This timeline is very important. The laws are very important. There's reason why there's laws. There are federal laws that rule adoption if you're going to collect federal funds, and we know they do. We know the state of Florida is banking and bilking the federal government, which we have to stop. We have to completely just dismantle DCF altogether and have those laws abolished, federal and state laws, and we need to refocus how to keep families together. We have to stop selling children, because this is what it is. It's selling children. If money is transferring hands, it's a sale. Anyone with a brain, a freaking 2-year-old with a penny for penny candy, can fracking understand that bullshit. All right, so now because I got the index, I was able to pinpoint some dates. I just kind of love when you get like an index for court docketing, because then you really kind of see, like I've mentioned before, like when my daughter went for her TPR trial, we knew there was a hurricane that went through Panama City, Lynn Haven, Florida area. And the foster monster slash possible grandparent moved the children because her house was destroyed. And we saw the for sale sign in front of her destroyed house. And we kept asking my daughter's attorney, where are the kids? I don't know. I had to do my own digging and found out that they purchased a house, moved to Texas, like 6 months after the hurricane, and it was approved by Judge Anna Maria Garcia. And you're also going to figure out, once you see and watch my videos and stuff, what idiots these judges are. Um, the two that I dealt with, Anna Marie Garcia and Brantley Clark out of Panama City, or Bay County. All right, so this, kind of a basic timeline. So basically, I'm just here to update, my court. Oh, and law school is gonna have to be postponed to 2027. And I'm just gonna study my LSAT and try and apply to a dozen or so schools, get the best scholarship I can, and come out fighting. I don't know if I'll do accelerated. Accelerated is a possibility. It's 2 years, but you have to start in May. I don't know, because I have all these lawsuits going on. It does benefit me to take a gap year off. And not only that, but you know, um I have a 1983 case that is currently in a stay. It's in limbo in Georgia Appeals District Court. And well, Federal District Court, which is in Georgia. And then I will be filing a new 1983 case regarding this set of scenario. But I will fix the mistakes I made in the first one. And then and then I have this appeal in state court regarding the private adoption, which I just filed it, and it's just in the workings of getting the index, and I know they won't send me the dependency case. Okay, so first of all, in August 2016, they were removed, and that very night they were brought to Dana's RV, and they assumed she was the paternal grandmother. However, she could have only been related to the two youngest ones, because when my daughter met that piece of garbage who's arrested and in custody in Texas, because after he did 7 years, he ran back to mommy in Texas, and in less than a year after getting out of jail, he assaulted someone. I think he cracked a woman's skull open, from what I understand, and I hear he might get life. I hope to God. Okay. But my daughter, met him when she had 2 children and then had 2 more. Okay. The children were brought. You see, I lived out of county. I told my daughter not to move back to Bay County, because everyone had it out for her. And I even warned DCF that was a whole bad situation with Bobby and his mother Dana. It was a whole bad situation. They're toxic, violent, dangerous, manipulative, skeezy, trailer trash people. She had a good job in the military, but still trailer trash mentality. And they just want to get rid of the kids. I lived in another county. So, and this is in other videos of mine. There's more detail to where, things were really great. He was in jail for another time. And I talked about that case where he fell asleep on a hot July night, windows up, with my eldest grandson in the car. The gas station attendant could not wake him up, called the police. This is like wee hours of the morning, July heat. So if it wasn't for him, my grandson may not even be here today, because he was passed out on meth. And when the police went there, they found all kinds of drugs, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of everything. But here's what's fudged up about in Florida. I'm telling people, if you've got kids in Florida, I'm sorry, you need to get the fuck out of that state. I can't even stress this enough. I am so highly knowledgeable and mental health, IEPs, DCF, 30 years knowledge of DCF and their tactics and everything. And they are so gung-ho to take your child. I don't care who. I have all this knowledge, and I have a clean background. Like, clean background. No drugs, no nothing. No crimes, nothing. And they still won't give me my grandchildren. And if I had lived in there, they probably would have removed and terminated my rights for all my children. But luckily, I was in Florida. I mean, in Massachusetts before I moved to Florida. By the time I moved to Florida, my kids were like way teenagers. So, anyhow, so I keep digressing. I'm sorry. All right. So, she was in county. I wasn't in county. And she said, "Oh, I'm the grandmother." They didn't even get proof of that because at the time, his children were 2 and 6 or 8 months old. He might have signed a birth certificate for, I think, the baby, the youngest, but that is not enough in the state of Florida. There's going to be more backing up to it. You can't just sign a birth certificate and the court's going to say, okay, yay. It just doesn't have it work when you're not a married couple. There has to be more research done into it. Just any man saying, I'm a baby's father. So he wasn't adjudicated the father. He wasn't anything. So they just determined that day that they removed the children. This woman says she's the grandmother, so we're going to give them to her. And they drove to an RV park because she was living, for some crazy reason, she lived in the summers in an RV on the base. I don't understand it, but they drove all 4 children to an RV at like 10, 11 o'clock at night just to get rid of them. Just to get rid of them. This woman says she's related. We're just going to say, okay. There's no proof, and she doesn't have a foster care license. But, okay. I had an emergency home study done in my county by the DCF of my county passed within 48 hours. And they all wanted me to have the kids, but if you see in other videos, I'll just say Dana wanted to procure the 2 youngest for her piece of shit son, who I'll do an episode of his whole rap sheet, like his entire rap sheet, like the past like 15 years of criming and drugging. I'll do one of those. Okay. So, DCF ghosted me and stuff like that, even though they knew I had a past home study in Clay County, Florida. And they did not want to tell me when the next court case was so I can try and get placement of the kids because, first of all, Dana's been like constantly sick with cancer, which I'm not saying you can't take care of children with cancer. But she had been AWOL from the Air Force, her private sector job at the Air Force. She was cited for 7 months. She was completely destitute. She had to take out like massive loans to cover her cancer and to cover her bills for 7 months. And she's one of those people that just does weird stuff with her money and just puts all kinds of crap into storage sheds. I don't know, but she wasn't, as far as I understood from my daughter and her son, that she just blew money on stupid stuff. Okay, but there was no legal proving any of the children were her grandchildren, and she didn't have a foster care son. So that was an improper, illegal placement to begin with. But DCF doesn't care. And they ghosted me. But I've talked about that and other things. Okay, but I did show up in court in September of 2016 with Judge Brantley Clark. And he's garbage too. Really garbage. And I'm telling you, I will not be done with this until I've taken Anna Maria Garcia and Brantley Clark off the bench. I will not stop. I don't care. If I have to run against them, I don't care. I will find a way to get them both off the bench. I did this to another judge before. Got him off the bench. Not only that, but he went to federal prison. He's dead now, thank God, but listen to me very carefully. If a judge is willing to be corrupt at the bench, they're corrupt behind it. Trust me. Trust me. All right, so I showed up in court. Jennifer Smith, DCF worker, who I had been speaking to and knew I had a past home study through Clay County. Her and Stephen Barkley, the DCF attorney, said to the judge one of two things that were lies. And they knew they were lies. And they falsified and submitted documentation they knew were lies. And they said, one, there's no home study. There's no approved home study. Or none at all. One hasn't even been done yet. Secondly, that I had been evicted 5 times in the state of Florida, which was incorrect. Or that my husband and I were never even evicted. There was one instance that we lived in Okaloosa Island or something like that. We rented a house for my daughter and her 2 children before she met that piece of shit she had more children with. We rented a house, and we didn't know the age of the house. We didn't know that information, but we rented a house for us and her. It was like a 4-bedroom house, like a ranch. And the landlord shows up like a month after, and said, "Oh, you need to sign these documents about lead paint." And I'm like, "What?" I didn't know the house was built at the time that they had to do disclosures, and he'd try to slide it in a month later. I'm like, "Whoa, hell no. Oh, no. You're getting this house tested, or you're letting me out of my lease." He didn't want to do either. So I withheld the rent. You know what he did? He gets some Florida moron that ran a paint store manager, and someone behind the counter or something, local paint store, to come and test for lead paint. Here's a little fun fact. When I lived in Massachusetts, I lived in an apartment in an old that was built in 1912 during the time of the Titanic sinking. And they were renovating apartments next to me, across from me, and everything. Now, mind you, I am in my mid-20s. You know what I mean? It was 30 years ago. And and at the time, I wasn't really dating or anything. I had no intention to date. I just got maybe the year or so before, a year, 2 max, out of an abusive relationship. And I was dealing with my children's behavioral issues, getting them proper doctors, proper medication, proper schooling, everything. But there were, guys about my age, a little bit older, and one of the workers was always asking me out, and the owner of it was always asking me out. I made really good friends with the owner. Um, at that time, I was an office manager, so he had me come over to his office and do a little bit of management and stuff. He paid me a little bit. He didn't have a secretary or anything like that, but that was his business, was to, you know, strip down walls of the lead paint and repaint them. So I gained some knowledge, like what it takes to test this and clean this stuff. I mean, like they were doing it in apartments next to me and everything, so I'd be talking to them and I'd be seeing it's a very thorough, laborious journey to take years of paint off and make sure there's no lead. You can't just, and not only you can't just do a little like strip test. There can also be lead in the soil. You have to do soil tests and everything. I mean, this is a freestanding house. You've got to test the porches. You can't just, he literally went in the living room and put some kind of a like strip or something on it and called it a day and said, there's no lead here. I had my daughter had a infant and a toddler. So I was like, no. I was like, you're gonna either get a real company in here to test everything, soil everything, or you're going to let me out of my lease. Well, he didn't want to, so I withheld rent. It says, you're going to cure this or else. So he got a lawyer. I didn't get a lawyer. And I just said, I can take this to court and I can sue you and I can get all kinds of damages because you're supposed to give me this before I sign my lease, or at least while I'm signing my lease. You have to disclose that this house could have lead paint before it is a done deal. So, and he ended up just giving me actually, I think he gave me all my money back, and or my security deposit back, or something like that. I don't think he gave me all my money back, but we ended up settling out of court, and it was dismissed. I wasn't even evicted. It was dismissed. I was let out of my lease. But DCF is going to do what DCF does. They're going to lie. So, and I'm one of those people that and landlords are horrific in Florida. And Florida is pro landlord. So listen, and I know this is on a side note, but if you have a crappy landlord and they refuse to fix things, and especially if it's a health issue, just do a letter, look up the laws, and don't keep paying. Just and put the money into the court registry, and then let the court handle it. But they lied about that. And I raised my hand to talk to Judge Brantley Clark, raised my hand to say, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie. And he said, no. Why? Could it be because he's a corrupt judge? That'd be what I'd be betting on. That's what I would bet on. That he's biased for the state because what? DCF works for the state. Gal works for the state. All the contractors really technically work and get paid for the state, and the state judges work for the state. And I really thoroughly believe that there's a little discussion before a judge is appointed by a governor that makes it clear You're going to do my fucking bidding. And makes that clear. Okay, so I was denied the placement by Judge Brantley Clark despite Dana was broke with a small house, could not properly name home 6 children and 2 adults in a 3-bedroom. Yeah, they knew she didn't have the money. They knew she didn't have the proper home. They knew that the kids were going to go end up in daycare before and after school and through the summers, although I was a stay-at-home mom with my youngest child. And my husband made good enough money where I didn't have to work. Okay. So then I had an adoption attorney in October 2016. But I had to fire him, and I got him in Bay County. I had to fire him because his partner was the attorney for the father. The piece of shit that, abused my grandchildren. And that wasn't disclosed to me. Never, not even once. I actually happened to be in there to talk with the lawyer on a matter, and I saw his attorney that I had seen in court a few times walk in, talk to the secretary, and then go off to his office. I said, oh, hell the fuck no. I know how corrupt shit is in Florida. So, no. I said, no, you did not disclose to me. You should have disclosed that to me. And I had a fight and eventually got my $7,000 retainer back. So then I had another attorney. And then in 2017, we purchased a large home, a very large home. If you see in my videos, I talk about it. I tried to intervene, was denied. And then at the same time we did the motion to intervene, we also put in a private adoption petition, which is probably still open to this day. I mean, maybe it was closed, maybe it was merged. I don't know. They never let me know anything. And I just want to say, Dana fought for me to not have any contact with the children, letters, calls, or gifts. Or I couldn't even send Amazon packages to her house, like from Amazon. That's how petty she was. That's how she did nothing but take my grandchildren. They were all mine. I was the birth mother for the first 3. The mother lived with us for the first 3 births. And, she had nothing to do with them and wanted nothing to do with them and denied the 2 youngest were her sons. I mean, this is a petty, manipulative twat. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever see these people in custody battles, these mothers that kill the husband because the husband are winning in court for custody, and then her and her mother or her and her father or whatever kill the father, that's Dana. That's that woman. Like, if I had one, she probably would have killed me. She's that manipulative, that skeezy, that demented. But because she won, kind of, in her mind, she didn't harm me. But her and her son are dangerous. She'll sit there and say, I worked, I was in the military and I worked for the military. I'm a good person. And you know what I have to say about that? Jeffrey Dahmer, BTK killer. Who else? Gacy. And I can list more and more and more serial killers who were in the military. Military has nothing. Military does not make you a good person. Military does not make you a sane person. All right. But yeah, she fought for me to get anything. And I'm trying to make this quick because my husband's breaks in a few minutes. And then I have to take my disabled son somewhere. But yeah, she fought for me to have any contact with the children. And then eventually I lost visitation over a stupid whispering incident. All right, but in 2017, I had a private home study done. I passed with flying colors. Everything was great. But I lost the motion to intervene. Like the judge, Anna Marie Garcia, did not think I had any right to intervene on my grandchildren who lived with me most of their lives, who I supported financially, emotionally, physically, lovingly, for most of their lives. If they're corrupt at the bench, they're corrupt behind the bench. It's the mentality. So the children moved to Texas with the foster parent, Dana, in early 2019. And like I said, that we were lied to about all that. Dana gave the children back in 2019, which happens to be the same month that she found out that her son was sentenced to 7 years in a Florida prison. And that's not like I said from the get-go. When she told me, can I have the two youngest? And I said, no. DCF wants to keep them. This was like right around the time that I had, you know, I think it was the day after I had DCF here doing the home study, the emergency home study, days after they were removed. And, she wanted the two youngest. I said, no, DCF wants to keep them as an intact family, a sibling group of 4. Like, she wanted to divide the two and keep her sons to, one she denied, never went to the hospital to see when they were born, and said, those aren't my sons. I mean, she knew her son was sleeping around. Even with the 15-year-old, she knew her husband was sleeping around. But apparently because my daughter was too, even though she lived with that garbage son of hers. I mean, how sick are you to, not want to claim 2 babies that could be your grandchildren because you think that your garbage, violent, in and out of jail all the time son is some perfect thing? No, you're a demon who gave birth to a demon. All right, and then her parental rights were terminated in August of 2019. The children were back to Florida. I don't know the date. I haven't found the date of that. And placed into non-relative foster care, and were never told. Now, one of the reasons I was given why I couldn't intervene, couldn't get placement, was because, they were already bonded with Dana. But when she gave them back in July of 2019, because she was procuring the 2 youngest for her son, and she didn't think he was going to go away. Because, first of all, he came out of jail for a very short time while she had the kids, and then tried running over police with a stolen car, beat up a K-9 officer, and, then he went to jail for 7 years for that. And guess what? I don't want these kids anymore. I only had them for a couple of years, so I could procure them for my garbage son. Soon as I bet the day she found out that he was going to jail for a long time, DCF, I don't want these kids. Do you think they called me? Nope. They sent him from Texas back to Florida, to Leon County, stuck him in non-relative foster care. Probably someone they knew, because she was on the police force. Or they stuck her with the police officer thinking, that I wouldn't mess with her because she's a police officer. I mean, I'm suing her. I'm not afraid of her. I'm taking her to court. And she's part of the conspiracy. And you can't tell me she isn't. Because she's letting Dana, her and her husband are letting Dana have visits with the children, but not me. And there's also instances and proof that she was letting her son live on her property between his court stuff. Oh, and then when he ran from probation to a neighboring state, that they were harboring him, and they knew exactly where he was. All right, then we didn't find out about the TPR until January 2020. Now, remember, we said that she was TPR'd in August of 2019. July or August, something like that. Then the children were adopted to a non-relative in July 2020, despite my private adoption was pending. But I didn't find this out until May of 2024, that they were adopted to a non-relative. I thought Dana adopted them. I mean, she wanted them. See, everything's a secret. especially in a conspiracy. So you don't know what's going on. You can only assume. Informed December 2020 that children were adopted despite my pending petition to adopt, but it was found out by accident. All this stuff was found out by accident. In January 2021, we assumed that Dana adopted them, and we just went to her house, like I mentioned in other videos, with a bunch of Christmas gifts I had bought for the kids, with police. In April 2021, we went to Texas again, and we were led to believe that the children were now in Tennessee, which her former daughter-in-law, Carly, with her other grandchildren were there. Okay, so then my eldest grandson was returned to DCF from the adoptive parents in April of 2022 and placed into a group home. And then their rights were terminated. They have their rights terminated with him in August of 2022. They did that pretty quick, huh? And in March of 2024, they contacted us to adopt. And then April, without notice, April of 2024, without notice, without warning, explanation, they denied us any access to our grandson. And just like kind of left it at that. And I haven't heard from them since. And I've talked about this in other things. So listen, it is... Okay, I don't know what I did with that. I must have. But listen, there are federal laws that says children can't stay in group homes, especially if there's a fit relative. I am a fit relative. I don't care if DCF hates me. That does not make me an unfit person just because they don't like me, because I tell them that they're shit. I tell them, you're shit. All right, so I'm going to get going. I just wanted to update on this. I will continue to update. But listen, we have got to stop DCF in their tracks. We've got to start making courts and judges responsible. We've got to stop the biased, corrupt judges. And we have to take away immunity. And that's the only way we're going to do it, is taking away immunity. I may be persona non grata to the legal community because I think judges aren't gods. And I think that if they're corrupt, they should go to jail 100%. We need our DOJ and our FBI to get their asses in the fucking gear and take the fucking care of this corruption, because our children are dying and our children are being sold. Our children that we love and give birth to are being sold to PDF files. All right, people, I'm sorry I'm angry. I'm going to stay angry until this changes. It's my anger that motivates me. I'm sorry about that. I really am. As much as I get angry, I also get very remorseful and sorry and sad, and I'll break down crying because I'm tired of reading every day that another child was killed, or that these murderers are going to court, or something. I'm just so tired of seeing this. I'm tired of innocent babies dying. Aren't you? And if you aren't, you should be. You could have been one of those babies. You could have been one of those children used for a toy for whatever sicko's reasoning. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please share. Please, leave me comments. I want to get this built up because I want to start doing open, Discord panels or whatever type of, or YouTube live panels. I want to start talking. I want to start building this up where there's so many people that we just cannot ignore it anymore. We need an army to go against this, no matter what it takes. We cannot rest in our laurels if we get our children back, or if we deal with the pain already. We just have to do this, people. We have to fight this. This is not good. Our children have rights to be loved, nurtured, cared for in the proper home, not touched in a dangerous or SA way. They deserve that. And it's our responsibility as humans, and as adults to make sure that these children are loved and protected by our government. And they're not. Please do something. Thank you.